I am very excited to have Brad Kearns back on the show today. Brad Kearns is a New York Times bestselling author, former U.S. national champion, and #3 world ranked professional triathlete, Guinness World Record professional speed golfer, and elite masters track and field sprinter and high jumper. His B.rad podcast is a top 10 ranked Apple podcast in the fitness category. He's the co-author of Born to Walk with Mark Sisson and many other books. And if you know Brad and Mark Sisson, and they're just kind of this whole world, and I so appreciate Brad and everything he brings to the table. I asked him to come back on the show today to talk about a few different things. We're going to kick off the episode talking about, how should I say it? We're talking about sprinting. But we're talking about sprinting, not just in what you typically think of as sprinting, but having these high intensity spurts of exercise and how they are so good for all of us, but especially as we get older, for longevity. We talk about foot functionality and injury prevention. Many of you probably know, because I've been having the Palooza ad on the podcast for a while, that Brad is associated with Palooza shoes, the Barefoot shoes. So he had some really cool stuff to say on that. I hope you listen to that part about like the big toe and why it needs to be free, and just like the natural padding on the bottom of our feet and all, just really cool stuff about foot functionality and injury prevention. And then, we also get into, he is doing high jumping now. And so we got into kind of that aspect at the end. So if you're into possibly tinkering around with the thought of like doing stuff like that as you get older, you might want to listen to that part. But yeah, Brad is he's a wealth of knowledge. He's just like so enjoyable to listen to. So I know you guys are going to love this episode. Here is Brad Kearns. This episode is brought to you by Palooza. So Palooza, P-E-L-U-V-A, those are Mark Sisson's new zero drop minimalist shoe with that distinctive 5-toe design. I have been loving them. I've been a longtime fan of Barefoot shoes, and I was very resistant to the little 5-toe articulation personally at first, because just being real, I thought they looked really nerdy, and I was like, oh man, yeah, I love Mark so much, and I get what he's doing, but I'm not wearing those nerdy shoes. And then Brad Kearns, who's also involved with that project, was like, no, Tara, you got to try them. Tara, you got to try them. Tara, just come on, try them. And I tried them, and I kid you not, I enjoy them so much that I actually like how they look now. Weirdly, I can tell. So like the purpose of that 5-toe articulation is so that your toes can move more dynamically. So with other barefoot shoes, like I've been a long time fan of Vivos, and I'm still a big fan of Vivos, but they have just that big toe box, right? Which is awesome. So I didn't really feel like the 5-toe articulation was necessary, to be honest. But as I've worn them, I have experienced how awesome that is. It was actually been quite surprising for me. And I wore them this morning. I wear them all the time, and I'm really, really enjoying that freedom of movement on my toes. So, Brad and I have been going back and forth. I'm like, dude, I actually love them. And he offered to sponsor the podcast with Palooza and also offer you guys a 15% off code, which I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I will gladly introduce my people to Palooza shoes. So you can use code Coach Tara at palooza.com, or you can just go to Palooza, PELUVA.com/Coach Tara, and you can get that 15% off discount. Make sure you snag some of the socks while you're there, because you're going to need the toe socks. Okay. All right, let's get into the episode. All right, Brad, this is going to be a fun episode. We're going to talk about foot functionality, injury prevention, sprinting as an old person, participating in track events as an older person. Let's get into it.
So far, all those things are actually related. So I think we're set up nicely.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So probably it's not a surprise to most of the listeners, since they just listened to an ad. Maybe they fast forwarded, but they probably haven't successfully fast forwarded every time through my ad for Palooza, who sponsors this shoe, who you're involved with. And, you know, if this is your first intro to Brad, we have at least 2 other episodes. I've been on your show too. I don't know. I feel like we've had a lot of episodes together, but this is your world, right? Your background is in sports, competing, triathlons. Like, you know, you've gone the full gamut, from the slow, long distance to the sprinting to the everything, you know? And so Could you just give a concise summary of where you're at this point with not only like running, long distance, walking, sprinting, all that, but also how the foot functionality injury prevention side comes into all that?
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's been a pretty wild journey because, like you mentioned, going back many decades when I was younger, just like you, I became an extreme, very competitive long distance runner in high school, tried to run in college, kept getting injured and sick and burnt out. And that horrible burnout experience framed my whole career as a coach and a writer, and learning the hard way that, an unregulated competitive intensity in life is not going to necessarily make you a successful athlete, especially an athlete. Maybe it'll work at the law firm. If you up your hours from 60 hours to 70 hours a week, you're going to get the promotion. Okay. But when you're talking about something dynamic like the process of fitness, boy, I had to really, uh, change my personality, change my outlook, discover my dark sides and my blind spots, and learn how to be a smarter, more patient, more appreciative of the process, that type of athlete. And that served me well in my career as a pro triathlete. So I was on the circuit for 9 years, way back when, from ages 20 to 30. Now I'm 60, so it was half my life ago. But I had some good success. And I also, again, struggled and really learned the lessons of success and failure in a very dramatic manner. And again, like a really rich experience of being an athlete is you're going for it, you're all in, your heart and soul is on the line. And then you have to process things like defeat and disappointment and sort of, get over yourself and realize that you're not the center of the universe. But those days are so long gone. And I really had, great value from pushing my body as hard as I could and being an extreme endurance athlete and triathlon competitor. But it's not something that goes hand in hand with overall health, well-being, functional fitness, and longevity. And in fact, what I did as a professional racing around the world and training like crazy in those three sports of swim, bike, and run was directly in opposition to my health, functional fitness, and longevity. I became very good at going in a straight line very fast in swimming, bicycling, and running, but that was all I was good at. And it comes at great expense of hormone balance. And there's a lot of psychological issues that come into play when you're pushing your body that hard and then you have to disengage and get back into real life. And I think we see that in the recreational level with extreme endurance athletes having a somewhat unhealthy, obsessive, compulsive approach because the nature of the challenge is so compelling. So I've discarded all that. And now I'm so happy to report in my older decades here, I've become obsessed with a completely different athletic experience. And I'm a master track and field athlete. So I'm a sprinter and a high jumper, trying to be a sprinter and a high jumper, but I love it. And the challenge is so different from just putting in the miles and slogging away down the roads. And it's such a similar transformation to what you talk about beautifully on your show, where you were that jogger and that runner and finishing the marathons and getting quite fit and quite accomplished, but then realizing, hey, when's the last time you did a weighted lunge in the gym, and do you have any functionality at all? I was constantly beating up my body as an endurance athlete, and so now I'm trying to figure out, how do I become powerful and explosive? How do I maintain that in my older years? Because the challenge of training is quite disparate, and you don't recover as well as you did. And then the goal of becoming a sprinter and a jumper is entirely different than getting good in endurance. And so now it's like the performance, the rest and recovery cycles, everything's different. So it's a great new challenge. And to conclude and then let you talk, uh, it's directly associated with longevity, with functional fitness, and with all those checkpoints that we talk about and hear about so much in the health and wellness space, that we want to preserve our explosiveness, our muscle strength, our muscle power. So I feel much more in harmony with living a long, healthy, active, energetic life versus the extreme athlete from many decades ago who was trying to shave 30 seconds off my time from 1 hour 46:30 to 1 hour 46 flat so I could go from fourth to first place. And I was just obsessed with, how do I gain those marginal gains at the expense of my health, generally speaking.
Okay, so if somebody's listening to this, like, let's say maybe they're, I don't know, anywhere from 40s to 60s, maybe 70s even, and they're like, Okay, so sprinting and these type of power activities and function, these are really good for longevity. I will probably break if I try to just start sprinting. That doesn't seem feasible for me. You mentioned this aspect of building a more functional body. So, like, what would you recommend? Let's say they're anywhere from like average, they do go to the gym, they kind of work out, but they're like sprinting, no way, all the way to somebody who's like maybe very beginner. What kind of things might they be thinking about that would even pave the way for them to be able to try out sprinting in a way that isn't terrifying?
Great question. So, first, let's define sprinting as a brief, explosive, nearly all out effort of any kind, including various options for no impact or low impact sprinting. So, the concept of sprinting on flat ground, like the Olympic athletes, that's great. And in fact, the greatest fitness benefits come from high impact sprinting on flat ground because that's the genetic signaling for bone density and also the most profound genetic signaling of any exercise for fat reduction. Oh, there's one more on that list. You know what it is, Tara? There's sprinting on flat ground, high impact sprinting on flat ground for fat loss. And the other one that goes hand in hand, jumping up in the air. And yeah,
Yeah.
anytime you jump off of the earth into the gravitational force, you're sending a profound genetic signal to shed excess body fat. And when you're pushing yourself and doing those brief explosive efforts, uh, all kinds of cascade of fitness benefits happen, cascade of hormonal benefits, but you can get almost all those benefits with low or no impact. But I'm mentioning the bone density and the fat loss because it's a nice idea to aspire to gradually work your way up to where you are able to do some weight bearing sprints for those additional benefits. And that's a really nice, steady, safe progression that anyone virtually can do, where you might one day go to sprinting up the staircase or sprinting on a steep hill because there's a minimized impact load, and then doing some really short, they call them wind sprints. So you're on the athletic field or on a track or on a smooth path, and you can, pick it up the pace for 3, 4, 5 seconds and then gradually slow back down. Even a jogger can probably do that today if they have the functionality to go run 5 kilometers or 10 miles or whatever. But the entry point for sprinting is to just put the muscles under that maximum challenge. So you can get on a stationary bike and instead of pedaling away and watching CNN for 45 minutes at the gym and checking that box that you're doing your cardio, you can make cardio a completely different concept where you do brief bursts of explosive effort and then you rest for a very lengthy duration so that your next sprint and your next sprint can be of similar quality, similar power output, similar degree of difficulty. And I think we really screwed this up in the fitness scene because today, you can tell me your opinion too, but I see the prevailing most popular modalities are the endurance scene, which is going stronger than ever for some reason. We could talk about, oh my goodness, 54,000 people ran the New York City Marathon last year, this year, all-time record. London Marathon was even bigger. Okay, so everyone loves to do that extreme bucket list endurance stuff. And then secondly, the main thing that we see in mainstream fitness programming is HIIT, high intensity interval training. And it's a great training system. It does deliver all those benefits. If you Google HIIT right now, you'll see that it helps you with glucose regulation and fat reduction and brain-derived neurotrophic factor. But by and large, a lot of the HIIT programming is too prolonged and too stressful for the vast majority of participants. And so when I'm in the health club doing my thing, you look into the classroom with the people sweating on their stationary bikes, and the instructor and the peppy music is saying, okay, we're going to do 10 sprints and they're going to be 30 seconds each, and then we're going to rest 30 seconds, and then we're going to sprint again. That's a HIIT workout. So you can't use the term sprinting when you're talking about intervals with a certain rest period that puts you under duress and is training things like anaerobic threshold or the now highly regarded VO2 max workouts, and all that stuff's in a different bucket than true explosive sprinting. So I'm going to simplify things and define it for the listeners, viewers, that a true sprint really is only around 7 seconds. That's what the body is capable of doing at maximum output before you exhaust your cellular energy and you have to start recruiting different energy systems. So the recommendation for a sprint workout, you can quote sprint for 10 to 20 seconds, giving you good fitness benefits. Of course, it's not technically a pure sprint, but when you're going only for 10 to 20 seconds, you're pushing it. You're cranking those pedals. I don't care how fit or unfit you are giving yourself a powerful maximum output effort, and then a recovery ratio of 6 to 1 for the work ratio. So simple. If you're taking notes now, this is the hot stuff. You do a sprint lasting 10 to 20 seconds, 6 to 1 recovery to work ratio. So if you're sprinting 10 seconds, you rest for a full minute. If you're sprinting for 20 seconds, let's say stationary bike, rowing machine, if it's no impact, you can sprint for longer versus the impact load and sprinting on flat ground. 10 seconds is plenty for most people. But you take that leisurely 6 to 1 recovery period. Then after you've rested for a minute, you can hit that bike pedal hard again for 10 seconds and have another really high quality, powerful, explosive effort where you feel the quads burning. After you stop, your heart rate is quite high and your lungs are working to get yourself, back to regulation. People ask, well, what should my heart rate be when sprinting? We're not talking about heart rate or training zones or any of those things. Just put those aside for a moment. I don't care what your heart rate is. It's going to be super high and then it's going to come back down pretty soon. So it's not this notion of steady state, how endurance athletes think. So 10 to 20 seconds, 6 to 1 recovery ratio, and then a proper workout. No matter how fit you are, you only have to do 4 to 8 reps. And that's all you need. And if you start getting fitter and write another email back like, hey, I've been doing these for 6 months, I feel great. Now I'm going to up it to 12. No, 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 no. You're not going to up it to 12. What you're going to do is you're going to be faster, more powerful, more explosive on the 4 to 8 sprints that you're conducting. So it's not about quantity. It's about quality with extensive rest so you can do quality again. Now, how does that counter to the definition of a HIIT workout or the HIIT workout in practicality? Is people are just getting tired, exhausted, fatigued, and depleted on their 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th sprint on the bike with only 30 seconds rest. So what you're doing basically is a really poorly regulated dispensation of energy over the course of weeks and months if you're a regular gym goer, followed by, guaranteed by many experts, of one slamming of a Ben & Jerry's pint later that day. So the 6 a.m. spin class is equated with inhaling a pint of ice cream at 6 p.m. because of the exhausting, depleting nature of that type of workout, and especially that pattern of workouts. Once in a while, you want to do HIIT workout? Sure, go knock yourself out for an hour with Laura here in Sacramento, who teaches this noted, regarded class that's super badass, and people drive around town because she teaches here Monday and here Tuesday, and she will rock your world for an hour. My wife's like, you got to take Laura's class. I'm like, I'm good. I go to the gym. I do my thing. No, you got to try it. You got to try it. I tried it once. It was so freaking hard. I was dying, and I'm looking around the room. There's 30 people, whatever. Everyone was doing just fine, like holding the bar up and doing their biceps and triceps. I'm like, wow, it's a pre-selected population of people that have devoted themselves and gotten in super shape. But that leaves behind the casual fitness enthusiast who wants to do something solid. We're getting close to New Year's here as we record. People show up in the gym in January. They enter one of those classrooms. It lasts for an hour. It would be better for them to last for 20 minutes and have longer rest periods and do every other thing that the teacher's instructing them to do. So that's my rant against traditional mainstream fitness programming today.
Yeah, I'll add, I like to do it's not really a hit circuit, and, I think most people in the industry know that a true high intensity is what you just described of about 7 to maybe 9 seconds max all-out effort. That's an actual high intensity interval training circuit. Nobody really does that, it's really more like we're just doing a circuit workout or a heart rate training workout or metabolic conditioning or whatever, and we kinda just call it HIIT for short. But the maximum that's ever gonna last for me is 20-something minutes, but it's usually about 21, even with my 2 minutes rest between rounds, like, it's a in and done, and then I look over sometimes at the workout classes, and I'm like, "They're gonna do that level of intensity for a freaking hour? That's insane," And There's a different aspect to it, right? And, everybody's at where they're at, and it's all good, but, like, when I'm doing a circuit like that, like, the main priority is what's happening on the inside of my body right now. Like, what am I programming into my physiology? Which is, I do hope that eventually people get there, because sometimes in the workout class, it's just you're just trying to keep up, and you're just trying to go, like, you're a little bit disconnected from your own body, because 'cause you're just trying to watch what the lady's doing and just keep up. Right? And so, yeah, there can be some drawbacks there, but I also often think, like, they're, like, working so hard for so long, and I do think that these short spurts of intensity, not only in exercise, but in life too, are really, you can get better results with less prolonged chronic effort, right?
Right. I mean, that's the essence of the human stress response. The desirable aspect is a brief fight or flight effort, whether it's a presentation in the conference room that you're getting nervous about and you're feeling the butterflies going. You give your presentation, you sit down and you listen to seven more. My daughter just had finals week. I'm like, how'd it go? Our presentation was fine, but it was so boring to sit through nine previous ones before our 20-minute segment came. So it's like, that's how the fight or flight response is supposed to work.
Right.
And the fitter you are, the more that you can benefit from the various programming options. And I think we need to appreciate that because we can go on YouTube now and look at Olympic athlete does kick-ass workout in the gym or on the track or whatever, but we don't understand that the top athletes are working well within their capacity all the time. They're not on their hands and knees about to puke after their 21-minute session, and neither are you because you've trained for years and years to get up to that level. So we kind of have this filter that's necessary in the fitness scene for people who are at a lower fitness level, lower capacity. They too need to work at 65 to 80% of capacity, but they're not. They're going to 81, 82, 83. And so they're disregarding not only their own physiology, but the beautiful example set by the elite athletes of the world. When I was coaching triathletes, I would tell them, look, I mean, I'm looking at my training log right now when I was at my very best and competing at the highest level in the world. And I did a lot of runs at 100 to 120 heart rate. I did a lot of bike rides at 95 to 115 heart rate, like miles and miles and miles going whatever, 17 miles an hour for me, or running, I was going 8 minute 30 pace. And the takeaway insight is that for most runners today, that comfortable correct training zone aerobic emphasis pace is a walk, not a jog. That's why we wrote the book Born to Walk, Mark Sisson and I, trying to convince runners, look, if you want to train the body properly, the vast majority of your training should be a medium or brisk walk, depending on how fit you are. And then, of course, you have those sessions that are more difficult and you're increasing your heart rate into a performance goal zone because you're training for a 10K or a 5K or a marathon. But uh,
Mhm.
Kipchoge, the greatest runner of all time, we feature him a lot in the book because he shared his training log with the world, and the exercise physiologists and the coaches had a field day looking at the greatest marathoner of all time, gave away all his secrets and said, here's how I train. He does 83% of his weekly mileage in zone one, not zone two. And I love people pounding zone two. Zone two is great. Okay, that's great because zone two is a comfortably paced aerobic emphasis workout. But the greatest of all time is mostly zone one, a little dabbling in zone two, and a little dabbling in zone three, four, and five. So
Mhm.
if people are frustrated, pegging their heart rate at the absolute maximum of zone two so they can actually jog, and they think that they're not getting in shape or they're not doing it correctly, they're training their body, relatively speaking, in a more stressful manner than the greatest and most gifted and talented marathon runners. So arguably we could be training at, lower rates than the great African marathoner, but it's a really heartwarming insight to realize you don't have to torture your body to get really, really fit and to continue to progress over time.
Mhm. Yeah, you remind me of when I interviewed, oh gosh, why is my mind who's the keto marathoner? Why is my mind doing this to me? Zach. God, sorry, Zach. I hope you didn't hear me just for his name. I had it. Anyway, when I interviewed Zach, he was like, I was like, so, what intensity level does it feel like for you when you won this, 100-mile record-breaking time, and he said, I believe the way he said it was something like, "Just under moderate intensity," so basically easy, you know? I'm like, "No way, dude, because these are, like, insanely fast miles," but he's just conditioned himself to the point. I mean, it makes sense, right? You gotta be going for 100 miles, you're gonna have to pace yourself, but the way that felt to him at such an incredible pace for that long was easy.
Yeah, it was like, 6-minute, 45-second miles, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing.
So that's a great permission for every endurance enthusiast listening to just slow down and allow the body to develop properly. Because at that lower heart rate, that's how you develop the aerobic system, which is how you develop new and more efficient mitochondria and better fat burning, which is, as we know, the secret to success in endurance sports. So if we put that topic into the category, then we have to come back a little bit and talk about the gym exercise because the same dynamic is present with strength training and the classes in the gym, where if everything were just toned down a little bit, so you didn't keep getting sore and thinking that's a badge of honor or a sign that you're getting fitter or getting your muscle stronger, the soreness and the muscle damage that it represents is a unnecessary and unwanted byproduct of the fitness stimulation. And I'm working on that myself, man, because as an older sprinter and jumper, it's really easy for me to go out there, put my enthusiasm out there on the track and my desire to compete and excel. And I tend to overdo it. And I find out not at the time, I feel fine. I feel great. I can do 3 more jumps. I want to get my form just right. And then at hour number 24 or hour number 48 after the session, especially at this age. So shout out to anybody in the older decades, the muscle damage, the systemic fatigue, all those things just kind of settle in, and it takes a couple days for me to clear my head and clear my body and go, okay, I beat myself up pretty good there, but I didn't really realize it till later. And I talked to my son who's in top shape and he's lifting heavy weights and at age 27. And of course, he might feel the same way, but he might feel it for like an hour and then go on with his busy day and go hit another workout, 12 hours or 18 hours later. So we have to be really careful with that stress rest balance and
Mm.
monitor things like muscle soreness, muscle damage, and especially starting workouts in a fatigue state is pure stupidity. And no one can argue that because mostly what we're training is the central nervous system, right? To fire, to lift the muscle.
Right.
We say, well, my bicep feels fine today. I'm going to go do some more bicep curls for a simple example. But we also have to know, how does your brain feel from doing 7 hours of moving boxes the previous day? That kind of
Exactly.
matters.
Yeah. This is hitting home because, yeah, you'd be surprised how many, like, people that I work with directly, they're so used to fatigue and forcing themselves that there's, like, a whole paradigm shift for them when I'm like, "No, you don't train fatigued." And they're like, "Well, I'm gonna just gain weight or be fat forever." And I'm like, "No, you're gonna get to where you wanna go so much faster when we allow your body to come back into homeostasis. Your only job is to rest and sleep and take care of yourself, and training is something you do when you feel up to training." I feel very strongly about this. It's been very promoted on social media for a very long time, even by a lot of coaches. Like, it's this, "Well, you think I'm not tired, but I get in here anyway, and I beat my chest big because I train while I'm super fatigued and can barely see straight and just force myself, and now I'm this, like, amazing person." And I'm like, "No, like, please stop promoting this, because if you are already fatigued and you can feel, it's like you have the CNS fatigue type feelings, like, the thought of even lifting weights just makes you, like, wanna, like, sink back into your chairs, like, there's no way I can do that. Like, you have a general weakness in the inside of your body, you're not sleeping well, your appetite is dysregulated, like, you're not feeling great, and then you're gonna go in there and try to do resistance training. I'm fully against this. I'm like, work on the fatigue first, and training is something you do when you feel up to training. It's not even a question in my mind. Because I walk every day. I go in the gym, I'm a 7-day-a-weeker on walking. My time ratio in the gym is it's about an hour every day walking on the treadmill. I actually had one of the gym employees say, like, "Do you ever lift or do you just walk?" So that's how much Tara is seen on the treadmill, you know? But my actual lifting time is way less, like maybe 30, 45 minutes because I started talking to somebody midway through, you know? So I think that I really appreciate you hitting that aspect of this is like we're not trying to run ourselves into the ground with any of our approach. It's I've always said like get the stimulus and get out. That's enough.
Love it. And I'll say, in support of fitness freaks, if this is what you want to do is go crush your body,
Yeah.
yeah, we can't even judge it. And I have to like
Yeah.
take it back because I've been trying to pound this into heads of fitness enthusiasts for a long time, just like you, especially the triathlon crowd. And I'll be coaching someone for a period of time, and finally we get to like a fork in the road, and I'm just like, okay, well, you know, what do you want out of the sport? And a lot of times the answer, you find the answer in your based on results. Look at your intentions, right? So you're giving the answer. You don't have to use your mouth. Your answer is, I want to inappropriately fatigue and exhaust my body as a mechanism to escape from emotional stresses and problems in my daily life. And I also want to, feed my ego incessantly because there's a bottomless pit, and that's the true answer. And if that's where this person is at right now on their growth curve of life, it's okay because
Mhm.
it's much better, and, I should say it's a less destructive type of addiction than substances and things that allows you
Mhm.
just transitioning from when they're in the gym, training their bodies to the extreme, or
Mhm.
for that matter. So, uh,
Mhm.
we're just kind of people like you and we're just presenting a perhaps more appealing option, especially if you open your mouth and give me that lip service that you're really all about pursuing peak performance. And again, as I sound like a hotshot here, I am learning these lessons myself because when I go out there and have jumping practice and take 20 high jumps, I get an immediate payoff and instant gratification that I'm pushing and challenging my body and I'm pursuing this compelling goal. But what if there's a little voice way back in my mind saying, "Hey, Brad, you should probably only take 12 to 14 because that's what the elite Olympic high jumpers do." And then they're done because the explosiveness is lost. And then you start breaking form and potentially getting injured. And a lot of times I have a hard time turning off that voice and regulating that competitive intensity. But
Mhm.
I'll tell you, when you're a racer like I was, and I'd have to fly my poor self home from across the world after getting my ass kicked, boy, that will cure you of unregulated ego demands and training when you realize, oh, I just left a very top race performance out on the training ground for the past 7 weeks instead of doing it in bloody Australia, which I flew here for, mate. So that part really was a healthy recalibration for me to realize that you want to be a hero in training, you want to be the strongest person at your local gym, who never misses a workout. Okay, fine. That's what you're going for, but it's so different than peak performance and also, I would say, mental and emotional well-being.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think there's, like, obviously many training variables that I think are important to consider. I have high frequency. Like I said, I go in the gym almost every day. Some of those days I'm just walking, like, I have a very deep connection to my body, and so I can just tell instantly there's no questions asked, like, not a good day for lifting today. That's not even a question, I don't wonder, I don't doubt it, I don't pressure myself, I'm just like, that's unapologetic, like, absolutely not. But most days, I'm good to do a little something. But my actual volume within those sessions is very small, and I'm a highly trained person, so it's like my recovery is very high. I'm not driving myself into the ground for hours 7 days a week. I'm skipping some days I'm only doing like, "Yep, I did a little tricep of biceps and I gotta go now." You know what I mean? So, like, I choose high frequency, lower volume, high intensity. And I think you bring up an important point is, like, when we're giving our opinions on social media, it's literally impossible to address every nuance of every single person, you know? And so, like, I to me, it feels respectful to just assume that you are going if the way you're doing things makes sense for you and you feel good about it and you're getting good results and I say something different than that, I might not be considering your exact contextual experience. I might be thinking of some lady in perimenopause with hypothyroidism who is, pushing herself to the ends of the earth to lose weight and really needs some recovery. I might not be talking about the 25-year-old guy that is, I always say they're on gear. They're like naturally on steroids that has super high recovery and, already has been lifting since he was 12 years old. You know what I mean? So please know
Oh,
that.
I think a lot of those influencers might be hopped up on who knows what kind of substances that negate the importance of getting good sleep, nutrition, and rest and recovery. So it's like, who am I taking advice from?
Yeah.
But um, someone that's got different dynamics, or a lot of people bellyache about how their schedule is busier than a fitness influencer who's filming cool things to do every day. And I totally respect and appreciate that too. So we got to do
Mhm. Mhm.
can. I wonder if your neurotyping comes into play here too. Like you're a high frequency person, and we want to kind of get more in touch with how our body works and our moods and our particulars in order to design the best fitness experience.
Mhm. Yeah. And on that note of the neurotyping, I'm a Christian who made it, I'm a 2A, 1B kinda he calls me a mutant, right? I'm kind of both. But 2As that have good acetylcholine levels, he calls them all virtually physically unbreakable. So I do have I feel that way sometimes. I'm just gonna be real. Like I have very, very, very high resilience and I recover quickly. And I'm highly trained. I mean, this is like my life, right? So yeah, I think that it does definitely matter. There's some people that recover better from neurological type workouts, like our dopamine dominant type people. There's some people that recover better from muscular type workouts. So, and it also there's so many more factors than just your neurotransmitters. It's how trained are you? How hard did you actually hit it? What's going on? Is your life stress high? Like, do you breathe well? Is your nervous system regulated? Do you have a bunch of unresolved trauma? Do you have an autoimmune condition? Like what there's so many factors, So anyway, um, let's shift gears a little bit if we can, because I want to get into the feet. I definitely want to pick your brain about this. So, like, obviously, thank you for pushing me on the paluvas. I love them. I wear them all the time. I need to get more toe socks because every time I do laundry, I wear my paluvas 2 days in a row. I gotta do my laundry again, so I need to get some more socks. But love them so much. I get lots of compliments on them, which is really interesting because remember I was like, I'm never wearing those nerdy shoes. And people was like, "Oh, those are so cool. Where did you get those?" I'm like, "Okay, interesting." But I love them. And so, yeah, you guys probably know, but it's the five toe articulation barefoot shoes. I really do appreciate the five toe articulation. That has been awesome. Like it feels very almost healing to my gait, the way I'm walking. And so yeah, let's take a moment to talk about those shoes, foot functionality, and all of that since we have you here.
Yeah, what a great plug. I appreciate it. And if listeners don't know that full backstory, uh, one of my first people that I wanted to bring into the mix here and get, the right people and the right shoes telling the story was you. You got to try these shoes. They're awesome. And you're like, I'm good. And it was all about the appearance. But Bernie, became it's a pretty common thing. Like I did a health retreat with 600 females, me and my man Ike from Paluva. We worked the booth, and it was the female onslaught, and a lot of them had comments when they put the shoe on and looked down at their feet from that standing position, looking down at their feet. They didn't like it. Oh my gosh, my feet look so ugly, or whatever. And it was really weird to hear that all day, and that sensitivity. But then when you look at the shoe on the shelf, it looks fine. It looks beautiful and it looks interesting. But I kind of think like all fashion is someone setting a new trend and trying something new. And so if you're kind of one of the early adopters of this unique five-toe shoe, everywhere I go, people look down and comment on it, whether it's a compliment or a question, or who knows, maybe they want to criticize them or whatever, but they're noticed. And I think that's kind of like the essence of what fashion is trying to, break the mold of ho hum. And when it comes to shoes, of course, the mission that Mark Sisson and his son Kyle, the co-founders, and everyone on our small team now is we're trying to transform how people think about their feet and about the shoe industry marketing in particular, because we've been brainwashed for many decades to think, especially in like the running shoe and the athletic shoe world, that shoes represent, quote, technology, and this technology can help you perform better and or minimize injury risk. That is the essence of the running shoe industry, is saying we have just made a new, quote, motion control shoe
Right.
with arch stabilization and a pronation control, and all these terms to describe how to protect the foot from
Right.
trauma and abuse of going through the human gait pattern. And then
Right.
in this corner, on the other side, we have evolutionary anthropology contending that the human foot is, Da Vinci called it both a work of art and a marvel of engineering. And so the technology represented in the human foot and the ability to, again, if you're taking notes, we talked about our sprinting workout. Now you can say what the foot does is three main things: absorb impact, balance moving body weight through the gait pattern, whether you're running, walking, jumping, whatever, and then generate forward propulsion to take the next stride, running, walking, whatever you're doing. So all those things are vastly superior by extensive, highly respected scientific research. The foot performs better than any shoe ever invented. Courtney Conley, she's one of the leaders in the barefoot shoe movement. She said a quote that the ability for the barefoot to absorb impact, the material that's built into our heel and our midfoot, it's little pockets of fatty elastin collagen, like a honeycomb type of pattern. This material in the foot is better at absorbing impact than the latest, greatest EVA foam that's put into the running shoes, where they talk about superior impact absorption with the 2026 model coming out now. Uh, why aren't we just all walking around barefoot then, like our ancestors did for 2 million years? Of course, we've atrophied our feet over time, and then we also have hazards, debris, temperatures, and things that we need to protect the foot from. But a barefoot existence would be inarguably vastly superior in every single way to having to wear a shoe. So why do we wear shoes? Okay, well, we want to have fashion. That's you're allowed to wear heels and look good when you go to Vegas and to go to the strip. When you're building a building in another hotel in Vegas, you want to see those guys in their giant work boots with the steel toe. And then finally, for specialized athletic activity of various kinds, you're not going to be playing basketball barefoot because some guy's going to crush your ankle when he lands on it. However, and same with running long distances on pavement. If you spent your life wearing elevated restrictive shoes, no, we're not asking you to go and put on this barefoot style shoe and resume your training patterns. So the whole idea with Palooza is we want to get you walking more in daily life anyway. That's why we wrote Born to Walk, and why a lot of health experts today are arguing that just walking and moving more is more important to your longevity and overall health than adhering to a devoted fitness regimen. We just have to move more as objective number one. Then we have to go in there and work our muscles a little bit and get into even broader fitness experience. But walking with the correct footwear so you can bring back that barefoot functionality and strengthen a foot that has been severely damaged, atrophied, and rendered dysfunctional by the lifetime in shoes.
Yeah. My thing with this fashion thing is very immature. It wasn't just that I didn't think they looked pretty or something. This is so embarrassing. I probably should not admit this. But I had been a big fan of barefoot shoes for a long time. What's that?
We're going to therapy session now.
Yeah, yeah. I'm being very, very honest and immature. Okay. So I recognize that. But because I had been a fan of barefoot shoes for a long time, I didn't really think the five-toe articulation was necessary, and I kind of felt like it was like a flex. Like, when people wore them, they were kinda like, "I'm really into health. Look at me, I know what's going on with feet." That's what I mean. I'm being very immature and judgmental. So I didn't wanna be like that. I thought, I was, trying to, show off too much that, I know about.
I validate that. I mean, if you go to Austin, which is the coolest, most hipster town on earth and the healthiest and most progressive health scene, everyone's wearing some kind of signaling that they're super healthy. So it's usually like orange glasses, fried toe shoes, a shirt that says I'm all cotton and it's recycled. It's like
Yes.
it's just so far with your flex that it's cool, but it's also like, all right, I've seen 27 of you guys now. Can we get somebody who's like willing to a sweatsuit with a personal embroidered logo? I don't know. Let me see something else. Flex.
Exactly, exactly. Like, I was always like, I'm not gonna I wear blue light blocking glasses, but hardly anyone ever sees me wear them because I'm usually not trying to get on my phone or on a screen at night when I'm wearing them. I'm not gonna wear them around town. Personally, people might have their reasons. I don't feel like I need them during the daytime. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like that. It felt like I was like trying to be like, look at me, I'm a health person. So that was kinda it. But honestly, like, I've changed because once I started wearing them and I will say, like, it was, like, a cool moment of, like, "Oh, I was wrong," because, like, I didn't really think that the five-toe articulation mattered that much as long as you had a wide toe box, but there's something to it. Like, I definitely notice a difference from that, and it's probably a little bit of rehab. It feels like almost like rehab by, like, having them separate. Like, it's like, "Oh, my toes really are, like, actually moving out and walking." And now I'm like, it's not like a signaling I'm cool or something, but it's like I'm if people notice them, okay, good, because this would probably be really good for their feet too. I'm not hoping for that. I'm just wearing them for me, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, this is a good idea for a lot of people to try out for sure. So, and I actually think they look kind of cute. They look like little, I feel like I'm wearing like little bare feet or something.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we have so many different cool styles, and that was one of the missions items for we call it Barefoot 2.0 because the barefoot shoes came out in 2005 from Vibram, and they were very popular, but they were kind of limited to extreme enthusiasts. There was no padding, minimal padding, just a strip of rubber and a sock basically sewn up. And it was for the really hardcore gym bros or the barefoot living people that are, in their campsite and hiking miles and miles. And so the widespread use and the ability to feel comfortable going to the supermarket, that's why we have a really fashionable, stylish range of models. There's a golf shoe, a court shoe. There's shoes that you kind of slip into for wearing around the home. But I think the five-toe functionality we should talk about a little more because it is really the key to a true barefoot experience. And the very popular minimalist shoe category, great to see that. And the quote, wide toe box is also a wonderful innovation because when you put your feet into a wide toe box, you are for once arresting the nonstop damage and destruction caused by a tight toe box, which is causing your toes and metatarsals to wedge together with every step. That's how we develop the bunions and the hallux and all these lifelong problems where the foot literally gets deformed. And the stats are stunning. Like there's 67% of all runners have runner's hallux, which is that big protruding bone on the big toe sticking out sideways and pointing the toe inward. Of course,
Wow.
it's the same shape as a running shoe, so you know how you got it. So when you're in that wide toe box, your foot gets to take a break from trauma. However, it's not actively relaxing, realigning, and re-strengthening the the toes, especially the big toe. So the big toe must dorsiflex independently and move dynamically through multiple planes of motion, must be independent from the other toes. And that's because it is the single, this is not Brad's opinion, this is like from evolutionary anthropology research and modern podiatry and all that. It's the single most important joint in human locomotion, and it balances the entire body weight over one joint for a brief moment,
Mm,
even the walking gait pattern, let alone the running gait pattern.
right.
That big toe is strong and functional and able to operate with that freedom. That's when you pronate efficiently. The pronation, of course, is the inward folding of the arch in order to both absorb impact and generate propulsion. So the arch acts like a spring, the Achilles tendon acts like a spring, the big toe acts like a spring because it dorsiflexes, in other words, flexing, making a acute angle with the joint, and then you spring off the ground thanks to the big toe. Here's some other fun facts about the big toe. Did you know that it was one of the last areas of the human body to evolve? And when the big toe broke from the opposable toe, like the apes have, and got in line with the other toes, it allowed us to come down out of the trees and walk upright on flat ground and hunt and gather and rise to the top of the food chain. So the big toe is a key distinguishing feature. That's a quote from evolutionary biologists. It's the key distinguishing feature of the human as opposed to ape cousins. The other key evolutionary advantage was the Achilles tendon. So if you look at, you can Google like Achilles tendon of a chimp and other ape versus a human. The human has a long, strong, powerful Achilles tendon that enables us to have that range of motion on the foot to be able to run 80% faster than other apes. So we can talk about your favorite shoes of modern times, but this is denying evolutionary biology when we restrict, especially the big toe, and when we elevate the Achilles heel off the ground in an elevated shoe. Katie Bowman, the OG of barefoot living, she says the elevated heel is the single most destructive factor of the modern shoe because now you are not giving your Achilles tendon a full range of motion, and thereby you're going to make it tight, weak, and atrophied. That's why it's such a problem injury area for runners. So getting to a five-toe zero drop, that's called a flat sole, where the heel is the same level off the ground as the midfoot. And in the Paluva, I think I have one off camera here. I don't know what you're watching, but you can see this 9 millimeters of cushion to give you a little bit more comfortable experience doing your thing. But the heel is the same height off the ground as the midfoot. So that's called a zero drop shoe. And then the other key feature you want is a very flexible sole. So I'm now, if you're watching on video, I'm squeezing the shoe into a ball. So that gives you the barefoot functionality, the five toes, the zero drop flexible sole, and then you're off with protection, style, but still giving all that barefoot functionality.
I will also add that I was wearing like the regular ones. What are they called? The model that like the, huh?
The strand.
Strand, yeah. So I was wearing the strands. I was in Lake Powell. We were gonna go for a hike, and there was tons of water. It was the most amazing slot canyon, like top peak life experience for me. I've always wanted to go in one of those really cool swirly slot canyons like that, and it was going for miles. It was so epic. And there was a bunch of water. So I didn't realize. I was like, well, I guess we're gonna see how this goes. They were awesome water shoes. Everybody was like, I wish I had your shoes on right now because it was all this rock and dirt and very uneven terrain. Like, so they made awesome water shoes, by the way. I was very happy with that experience.
Road testing out there in the slot canyons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, in terms, I just want to close off on this foot thing real quick. In terms of like injury prevention, you mentioned like not having your Achilles and the shortened range of motion, strengthening the rest of the feet. But, in terms of injury prevention and the rest of the body, anything to add there?
Oh, sure. Because here's what's going on when you wear an elevated restrictive cushion shoe. You are disconnecting the human foot from the kinetic chain. So everything is now starting from above the ankle. And that is a huge problem because you are inappropriately dispersing impact forces throughout your lower extremities, all the way up into your lower back pain. A quick, easy example would be like the person at Costco who's checking the receipts all day at the door and they're standing up. They're going to get home from that work shift, or a nurse who's got a 12-hour shift walking around and they're wearing their Crocs or their clogs or their Hokas or all the things that people who have on their feet all day jobs. It feels great to rest the foot on a pillowy, cushiony shoe. But what happens every time you move or even stand in place is that you're not able to load the skeleton properly. Anyone familiar with a skeleton, you look at the heel bone, the calcaneus, it's incredibly dense and cross-reinforced with connective tissue. The reason is because we're supposed to stand on our heels. We're supposed to stand with good posture, load body weight on our heels, have the shoulders in line with the spine and the neck straight and all those great tips. But when you're in an elevated heel, all of a sudden you push your center of gravity onto the midfoot. And that's why we have especially on the male side, dudes. We have the modern American slouchy, hunched over posture, like you're constantly text messaging, and that's another way that you refine this posture, ingrain it is doing old
Mhm.
things like driving, bicycle riding, text messaging, but it's driven by a poorly designed shoe with that elevated heel. But you mentioned the question of injury prevention, and that's a big problem here because you can't just discard these destructive shoes and transition immediately to
Mhm.
barefoot living because you heard it on a podcast. If you go to palooba.com, we have a wonderful ebook, 88 page, how to gracefully transition, how to use the
Nice.
shoe properly. You do things that are very low risk, like walking, because the impact forces are so different from walking to slow jogging that it's way less a
Mhm.
problem, and you're not going to get an overuse injury from walking in new shoes.
Mhm.
It's probably going to be fine. If your arches are sore the day after you take your first walk in Paluvas, then you go back and take a shorter walk. And so you make this graceful transition where you're barefoot as much as you can around the house. You're wearing those five-toe socks in all other shoes, not just Paluvas, but the five-toe socks allow your toes to, to relax rather than getting pinched together by the fabric of a sock. It's not as bad as pinched into a shoe, but it still makes a difference. So we want to have this goal for everybody to trend gracefully toward more barefoot living,
Mhm.
especially if they relocate from Hawaii to Utah, where they were probably barefoot all the time, every day in Hawaii because it was warm enough. And so now it's like, how can I preserve that barefoot cultural experience from Hawaii in freezing cold Utah? Yes, you can do it by wearing five-toe shoes, getting them off as soon as you're indoors and walking around in socks, and teaching those toes to reactivate and be part of the stride pattern, the gait pattern, the posture. That's why the injury risk is all over the place, starting from uh, y- you know taking the foot out of the equation, because the foot
Mhm.
does the lion's share of impact absorption and balance and all those things. The best way to experience this, go walk on a really, really rocky riverbed or whatever.
Mhm.
And make from Wild Jim makes those fake natural, it's a rubber surface you can stand on your stand-up desk and have like a root and a rock. uh,
Mhm.
or it's really fun. We put it at our trade show booth. But when you walk over a really, really uneven surface, you
Mhm.
see how hard your foot is working to keep you balanced and not falling and not flipping an ankle. Or raise your hand if you're listening, watching. How many times have you turned an ankle while walking barefoot? It's almost impossible to flip an ankle. But any runner knows on a trail run,
Mhm.
when you step on a rock with a slight imperfection, whew, you will flop that ankle to the side and go down for a 12-week pain and suffering of a sprained ankle.
Mhm. Yeah, okay, last 2 things to add on that note. For me, when you're talking about, like, the proprioception and, like, being able to understand what's going on under your feet and where your body is in space and reacting to that, as someone who loves hiking, I can never go back to, like, a really thick rubber bottom because you can't tell your brain is not getting the appropriate signals of the little imperfections in the ground under you. If you have enough protection from something like Palooza, you can still tell. It doesn't hurt, but you can still tell better. It's more flexible. It just feels way easier to hike. It feels like I'd be, like, hiking on, like, bricks or platforms or something to wear a super thick, hard bottom shoe. Like, I would never go back to that. I definitely hike in barefoot shoes, and yeah, you might need to work into it or whatever if you're not used to it, but highly recommend. And the other thing is, I think, I've been into barefoot shoes for most of the last decade, I guess I'd say. And the biggest thing, if you have not experienced this, and I'm really encouraging you if you're listening to this to consider, is that you likely have very little experience walking, like, far, like, in a straight line at a normal walking pace without shoes that are messing up your biomechanics, because when you're barefoot, you're at home, you're, like, moseying around, you're not, like, at the mall or walking across the whole gym, you're not actually, like, walking in a normal pace barefoot ever, and so when you put these types of shoes on, you will notice that you're like, "I walk different. Oh my gosh, I literally feel different how my body is moving," and it's like the best moment ever. It's just like, "Oh, like, yeah, this is like how I'm supposed to walk. Oh my gosh, like this feels better." Like you will know instantly. So just leaving that out there. So yeah.
I never thought of that.
Mhm.
So barefoot, we're mostly doing a short distance unless you're at the beach or something, and, there's not too many places where open freedom for barefoot walkers, even on, a grass field at the park. I used to sprint barefoot at the park, and then, on one occasion, I stepped on a bottle cap and got stung by a bee twice, and
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, "What am I doing, man? I'm trying to flex here and be Mr. Barefoot Sprinter."
Yeah.
And I'm wearing my pullovers when I'm sprinting, quote, unquote, with barefoot,
Did you have
yeah.
did you have your blue blockers on while you were barefoot?
Know that, some of that stuff's been strongly refuted, and one of them is we want maximum light into our eyes throughout the day.
Yes.
So,
100%.
don't wear sunglasses unless you need to squint a little bit, and that's your cue that you need to put the glasses on. But
Mhm.
over in Hawaii at 20th parallel, you're gonna be wearing glasses a lot of days, but generally speaking,
Mhm.
we can minimize the use of sunglasses until we need the protection, because if we put on too much eye protection all the time, uh,
Mhm.
we're telling our brain that we're not getting enough light. We're going to sunburn more easily because the brain doesn't know that there actually is a lot of sun because we have sunglasses on. And then at night, there was new research coming out that it's not the blue light the problem; it's the overall illumination of your environment
Nice.
really interfering with the melatonin release, which is the big
Nice.
wearing the orange glasses. So it's like,
Uh-huh.
put on your glasses and you walk around your super well-lit apartment and watch TV and you think, "Oh, I'm good because I got the blue light protection." It's, really interesting to realize that some of this stuff is well-intentioned, but go back to basics and common sense and try to make a more mellow evening rather
Mhm.
than as a Band-Aid so that now you can slam your 72-inch screen and watch a bunch of more Netflix.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that because I have a whole vibe. I have all these salt light candles and like everything just comes down really, really dim. I think the blue light blockers are great for, what if you do have to go out to the store? I mean, if you want to do that, or if you're going to be looking at a screen, it's like, yep, I got to get my taxes done. I'm going to freaking be on a computer at night. Cool, smart intervention. But I love that you mentioned that because that's my experiential truth is just everything comes down into this really low lit and you can feel your body just be like, "Okay, it's sleepy time coming." So, cool, thanks for sharing that. Brad, thank you so much for taking time right before Christmas. Come on, fill us all in, and, man, we didn't even really we hinted at your, uh, high jumping stuff. Let's just close with that. If somebody's interested in getting into the track stuff, and we did have our episode with Cynthia, so she talked about this, but just real quick, how does somebody get into this track and field master stuff?
Oh my gosh, it's pretty tough because there's not a ton of meets and there's not a ton of competitors. So I think if you're in the older age groups, masters starts in the 30s and then there's the 40s divisions, 50s, 60s, and then you have some really amazing old people. I saw a woman at the age of 85 break the world record in the high jump right in front of my eyes. I filmed her and I put the video up on my Instagram and it got 1 million views. So like
Oh, no way.
and social media contributor, this video, blew away like all the carefully crafted health and fitness advice I give at Brad Kearns one on Instagram and bradkearns.com. But what an amazing thing. She high jumped 3 foot 3 inches, which some people have scoffed at that height. And I'm like, let's take you out there and see if you can get your entire body over a bar that's 3 foot 3 inches. It's no joke. You have to really be coordinated and get off the ground with some explosiveness to get over a 3-foot bar. So,
And the 85-year-old woman, like, wow.
Kathy Bergen high jump world record, you can Google, you can put the link in the show notes, and it's pretty amazing.
We'll put your video. We're gonna put your video.
I, got- I have plenty of videos up of me. I jumped 5'1" this year, so I was briefly ranked number one in the world for the 60 plus, the old man in that division. There's
Wow.
guys a lot better than me, but not very many are still competing because it takes so much to be able to have the body prepared to do something explosive and high impact, like a high jump. Or my other favorite event is the 400 meters, one lap around the track. So my big goal this year, turning 60, was I wanted to run a 60 when I turned 60. So I ran a 1 minute flat, .8 in the 400, and that's not bad.
Nice.
It's like a decent high school kid would run a 1 minute, and then the fast guys are
That's
wealthy.
so fast to
Eh,
me.
like, it shows some explosiveness, and it feels like a competitive athletic event whereby a lot of people, especially as they age, they just start going slower and slower. They still get their finisher medal of the half marathon or the 5K, but they're shuffling along at whatever pace, and good for them. But I just feel it's very important to have some compelling, challenging, scary, intense athletic goals as we age,
Yep.
because mostly we'll just be sitting and watching TV and watching another big hit on the NFL on Sunday. Wow, those guys really crashed into each other. I'm not advocating for doing high impact sports when you get older, but if you do something that has that bit of competitive intensity rather than just prolonged enduring through life, we're all going to endure life anyway. I have a big plug for doing things that are brief and explosive. And it doesn't have to be formal competition. So to answer your question, like, why don't you get out there with a stopwatch and time yourself? How fast can you run up 10 floors at the hotel the next time you go to Vegas or wherever there's high-rise hotel, and
Yeah.
little goals up that, and see if you can do more push-ups or do more pull-ups or all the longevity challenges that are pretty popular on social media these days. A lot of them are cool. Some of them are kind of silly. And so I think there should be more age graded when we're putting up fitness challenges, but something you can do at an advanced age. It feels good to say, hey, I still got it a little bit, even though, some hotshot might laugh at how slow the old people are going. At least they're out there competing. It's really wonderful to see.
Yeah, it's awesome, and just I think the relationship with where you're at is really important, like, really accepting and honoring, like, if you're 60 and you heard this and you're like, "I'm gonna go see if how fast I can run one time around the track," and if it takes you 5 minutes, like, that is okay. That is good. Like, you got out there and you did it, and just enjoy it, and, like, give yourself props for even doing it, because a lot of people won't. I think that is the energy that helps propel us into higher levels versus, "Oh, great, like, Brad did that in 60 seconds. It took me for I couldn't even run for more than 10 seconds, you know, I had to walk the rest of the way." Like, being, supportive of yourself, of like, "Good for me though for getting out here, and let's see what I do next time." Like, just keeping that kind of fun, positive, self-supportive self-talk. I just think, especially if you're older and you're listening to this, like, you probably know that, you guys are wise, but just wanna encourage that because to me, that's the energy that always, like, brings me into the next level versus, like, feeling bad that I'm not further along or something just doesn't serve me at all.
That's why I appreciate your approach to coaching so much, because you're always thinking from that big picture perspective rather than just the pure rah 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 of, like you mentioned, those messaging we get now bombarded down our head, and the guy showing his watch is always at 4:30 a.m. and he's up and finished his workout while you're just getting up and reaching for your phone. So I think it's really easy to get discouraged these days by
Mhm.
people who are, beyond, and it's way better, and this is coming from a former elite athlete who raced at the highest level. I had to learn this the hard way. So listeners, viewers, please take what Tara just said to heart and realize that you don't have to compare yourself to others, and generate a message, not just feeling bad, but don't have to feel like such a badass either. I'm deeply humbled when I go and compete against someone who's way better than me, even though I'm in the mix and I'm putting up good performances myself.
Yeah.
Anytime I had great success in my career, it was really quickly brought down by perhaps the next race where I got my butt kicked. That
Yeah.
helps you regulate. And then what you're forced to do is focus on the process, which is where we should all be focused on anyway.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, how do you treat yourself and wherever you're at in your journey is critical, you know? So, yeah. Wow, Brad. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate you taking the time. I'm gonna go find that 85-year-old lady on your Instagram and put it in the show notes. And Paluva.com/Coach Tara, as you guys probably know, is the 15% off discount. Thank you guys for sponsoring the podcast.
The big discount. People use Coach Tara, and I encourage you to try it. There's no risk. If you hate them, you can send them back, which we're certain that if you put these on, you're immediately going to feel like you're wearing the most comfortable shoe you've ever worn because
Yeah.
your foot is finally allowed to behave how it wants. And people ask, "Oh, do they have arch support? Oh, I have a wide foot. Oh, I have a narrow foot." This shoe lets your foot be what it wants to be. So it's great for wide feet. It's great for narrow feet. You're going to pull the strings a little tighter, but you're not going to be traumatized by the construction of the shoe. And boy, it's a great awakening for so many customers are saying just
Mhm.
same messaging that you said, like, it's, I feel like I'm walking differently in the
Yeah.
way for the first time across the
Right.
parking lot of wherever you wore them.
Yeah, you'll know instantly. First time you take stride. So you're gonna be like, "Oh, wow, okay, that's what Tara's talking about." All right. Anything else? We've got the podcast. Actually, we have. There's so many things that we could direct them to. You got your Brad's Way, the protein powder, and you guys have new products. We're obsessed. I'm probably one of my kids is making one of those protein shakes right now. Oh yeah, here comes my bodybuilder son. He's gonna be making that any second. Yeah, tell him about those products real quick too.
Oh, yeah, you can look at bradnutrition.com, and I have a nice
Yes.
little peek line of the very, very best products in the category of electrolyte hydration drink and grass-fed whey protein isolate. I didn't really wasn't dreaming of getting into the nutrition game, but when I was a consumer for so many years and trying to find good quality products that didn't have disgusting sweetening and chemical additives, and you go on Amazon, you see all the proteins, there's birthday cake and a caramel swirl and cookies and cream and all these things that, if you insist and that's what you want to put into your body, but I have a really clean and fresh, potent supplement directly from Wisconsin source. So I'm proud to say that this is, the top of the market is our whole mission.
Mhm.
Products. Thanks for the opportunity to plug. To
We love them.
Tara and get involved in her coaching offerings because they really are extra special. And we'll talk about this for a long time. And of course, I've interviewed a lot of people in this world, but you got something. You got something special. I wouldn't call it a gift because you work hard to become who you are and have that perspective. But I will put in a big plug for that if people are looking to change their lives. You need a little help these days.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks. All right, we'll close it up there. Hope you guys, let's see, this is probably coming out like before Christmas. So if you're a Christmas person, Merry Christmas. If you're a Hanukkah person, I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly when that is. Happy Hanukkah. And if not, have a great day. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Inside Out Health Podcast. I hope it's been helpful to you in your journey. If you think that it might be helpful to someone you know, please share it with them. Please share on social media. It really helps me grow the show and reach more people with these amazing messages. And if you could be so kind as to rate the show and possibly even leave me a review, that really helps. So much thanks in advance if you do that. And yeah, please subscribe if you want to hear more of this type of content. I have lots of amazing expert guests on the way. All right. Thank you.